Hello, and welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
This is the podcast about murders and so much more. We will talk about anything strange, anything that goes bump in the night, and pretty much anything that amuses us.
And on that note, we need to mention that this podcast is not safe for work or delicate ears, so do be discerning who you listen to it with.
We also want to let you know that you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, so look for us there.
I am Shannon Lawrence. I am a writer, mom, wife, student, procrastinator, and you can find me at thewarriormuse.com.
My name is MB Partlow. I am a writer, an avid reader, an organizer extraordinaire, a mom to kids, cats, and a dog, and I call bullshit when I see it. And they're off.
Yay! This is our last episode for the season, and then we're going to be bringing back some neat stuff in season 2. Season 3?
Yes,
Holy shit balls.
Holy shit balls indeed. Holy moly mackerel, as my mother would have said. Not a big swearer, my mom. I know. Where did I come from?
I know. I was going to say I could quote my parents, but they both swore. And as naive as my mom was in some ways, she cussed like a sailor. I'm saying past tense. She is still with us.
I have never heard your mother swear. I haven't seen your mother that many times, though.
She doesn't swear as much as she used to. She also has less reason because she doesn't have 3 little boys running around the house. So let me tell you, that'll encourage anybody.
The other day at the shop, I was doing something. I think I was doing something on the computer and I lost it. And I went, oh, fuck. And then I looked around and I went, oh, shit. Because I
you were at the store.
Yeah. And I was like, nobody's here. And then it's like, no, there's somebody in the changing room. So I didn't yell it. So I don't think she heard me, or else she just let it go.
How has the store been leading up to, like, has it gotten crazy yet? Because we're not that far out from Thanksgiving.
We have a kind of a high baseline of crazy. So it has not gotten crazier.
Okay. Did you work there for last Christmas season?
Did.
Did it get crazy at all? Or does it not pick up like normal retail?
Well, it's hard to say because last year we were coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
So everything was different. I did work a little bit the year before. I wasn't working as many hours then, but it was really Christmas week itself. It got very slow. However, traditionally slow times in the store this year have not been slow. So I don't know what's going to happen. But no, people have not been crazy and, well, they haven't been too rude. I had a woman come in bitching about I believe she lives in some kind of senior citizens complex or housing or something. And she was complaining because somebody had where she lives got COVID and had to be quarantined. And now everybody has to wear masks again. And they're always yelling at me, you forgot your mask. You forgot your mask. And I just looked at her right in the eye and said, I would rather wear the mask than have COVID. Mm-hmm. And she actually said, humph, and walked away. And she's a challenging sort, so I was not too concerned.
Yeah, I will admit that. I mean, we've been having really nice weather, which has been bizarre. I posted a picture of myself in shorts the other day in Colorado in December.
Your legs look fabulous.
Thanks. But I'm already starting to go through like public withdrawal because I was still masking wherever I went, but we were at least going out and being outdoors and eating on restaurant patios and stuff like that. And now it's too cold most of the time. And by nighttime at dinner time, it is too fucking cold. No matter how warm it is.
Sun goes down, temperature drops.
Yes, we're in the high desert. It's cold at night.
Speaking of eating out, I just saw something online, on Facebook. There are people I knew that I grew up with. I don't know the person who started it, but she got a group of women together and they all went out for breakfast. Mm-hmm. And they all put down $100 bill and left when they were done with their meal.
Nice.
And the whole point was to just make some wait person's day.
Yeah.
And I think there had to have been 12 of them in the picture.
That's amazing.
And I was like, I want to do that.
I just wanted one person to tip the check because it was a trend going around, but they were mostly doing it at bars.
Oh.
But it was whatever the amount of your final bill, you then tip that amount.
Oh, wow.
And that was a big movement like 2 years ago. And then I imagine the way I saw tips drop off once the pandemic started at the restaurant, I tell you what, probably nobody was tipping the check. But then somebody posted today on Facebook that they tipped the check to somebody.
Oh, nice.
For something. Yeah.
So
hey, if you want to make somebody's day, tip the check.
Yeah.
Or tip the bill, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of this famed thing that a lot of the servers and bartenders are just waiting for one person to do so that they can experience it.
But I'm trying to imagine what that server must have thought. It was probably a waitress.
Yeah.
But can you imagine when she came over and she goes to pick up the money? Because everybody, I think they left like the check on top of the bill and just be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I just think that would be a delightful thing to do.
That would be amazing. I've got a side note for people since we use it so much. I did, if you go on Wikipedia right now, you're getting harangued.
I gave
donate some money. I donated some money. So just a reminder to people, it is a free resource, but it's one that gets used so much. So donating to them isn't a bad thing. And you can tip just a little bit. I didn't tip the little minimum they were saying, but yeah, you can donate to Wikipedia right now to keep them going. And then maybe we'll stop getting emails and because of the first time I donated to them, I get emails now.
Oh.
We need money. So.
Oh, maybe I blocked them. I don't know. It's like, I don't get those emails.
Yeah, I did ultimately block it. I'm like, I do that with anybody. Once you donate and you start getting harangued, it's annoying. And everybody does it. And so then I block that because I'll donate when I want to donate, frankly.
Or you look at their product online and you have to give them your email address to look at it, or they say, give us your email address and we'll give you a 20% off coupon. Well, especially in November, December. Yes, I'm always cheap. I'm always going to take the coupon. Who am I kidding? But, I always sign up for it. And then they want to send you every day.
I do have an email specifically for that usually. But since I donated through PayPal, they had my email.
Yep.
Yeah. So I do have an email that is for sign up stuff if I want to do it. That's all it's for. I don't go check it. It exists somewhere out in outer space.
Sometimes
eventually it'll fill up.
Because sometimes I'm like, I haven't looked at your website yet. I don't know if I want to order.
Yeah.
So
I hate those. That is recommended though in marketing and stuff like that to capture that information. So
and now you get a second pop-up that says, if you will give us your phone number so we can text you special offers, we'll give you. And I'm like, I don't fucking care if you're going to give me the moon in a cardboard box. I don't want you texting me.
Well, it's all like now that I've gone through several marketing courses and all that. I mean, it's everything that we're getting is exactly what they teach in marketing. You have to keep touching base with the customer. You have to keep them interested. You have to lead them into the sales funnel.
Yeah.
You got to get them through the bottom of that funnel and then you got to keep them. And there's software, customer relationship management software now to be able to do this shit. And it's all right, touch base with them this long after they've bought a thing and then send them a reminder this period of time after that to be like, hey, we haven't seen you for a while. And it's so funny now, having learned all of that and watching the companies do exactly like it's a checklist.
It's
amazing. Yeah.
Well, we were at the shop. We used to do a monthly newsletter and not everybody opened it. I don't know what kind of a return we were really getting on it. But then we decided to stop. We're going to stop, see if anybody says anything. Nobody said anything. But then for a specific promotion, we started doing a weekly email, and it's much shorter, and it's much, graphically, it's much less complicated. So it doesn't take me so long to do, which I appreciate. And I am seeing responses to that. Mm-hmm. Things that we put in the newsletter, people are acting on. Because generally we do like some big rah, whatever, to get people interested. Then we talk about what's new in the shop, what we've gotten a lot of in, what we need. We're a consignment store. I think people have heard me say that. So what we need right now and upcoming calendar, just events coming up. And people do, I saw that you needed bathing suits or whatever. So it is, people are reading it.
Well, that's good. I mean, they're the successful open rate on a newsletter is seriously like 20%.
Yeah.
It's a pretty low number because that's how few people really do open them.
Well, I think of all the emails, all the newsletters I get that I don't open.
Yeah, I don't. If it's somebody I care how they feel, even if I don't have time, I might open it and then do a quick scroll so that it shows them that it was read so that they don't think I'm ignoring them, which is terrible.
I had somebody...
Listen, I have no time.
I had somebody email me and say, why aren't you opening my email? And I was like,
ooh,
I'm sorry.
I saw that on Apple now. Oh no, it was somebody who told me that did the beta read on my business book. But it was that Apple is now putting something in where it won't notify reads on stuff like newsletters and stuff. So it actually blocks that capability. So the numbers are going to start getting skewed. People aren't going to be able to tell if Apple users...
Why give people less information? I saw that too.
Because the privacy thing, it's us creeping closer to like the GDPR stuff that happened, in Europe.
Well, and I don't... See, I want numbers, but I don't want to know specifics.
Right.
So I want to know...
I think it's pretty harmless to say
20%
this was open, but maybe they don't have to tell us who opened it.
Yeah, exactly. You sent it out to 100 people, 3 opened it.
Yes. That's helpful information.
And 84 asked to be removed from the list.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I remember when I was first sending out my author newsletters, I was like, I always put at the beginning, I do not add people without you having signed up.
Right.
If you are getting this newsletter, you either signed up for it on my website or you signed up at an event. So if you don't want it, I completely understand you removing it. Please don't report it as spam because it'll hurt me. I remain, because for me, that's big ethically. A big thing with authors is exchanging their mail lists. I would never do that.
I know. If somebody signs up for my email list, yay.
Yes.
That doesn't mean
But I do not add in somebody else's follow. That's tacky. I would never do that. So, but that's the problem is that people, if they don't remember, you're not going to remember, especially if you're not doing it consistently. And they're going to be like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm going to report you. And then you're like, but you did it. And I have your name right here in your own handwriting on this sheet from Mountain of Authors. Oh my God. So yeah, that's the fear.
Yeah.
Anyway, what have you been?
I want to talk about 2 things I read.
Okay.
It was 2 things by the same person.
Oh.
And they were short and sweet, and I loved them.
Okay.
Okay, so it was The Purloined Poodle and The Squirrel on the Train. They are both by Kevin Hearn. They're not novels. They are novellas.
Novelettes even. It's pretty short.
They're like 115 pages. He has written the Iron Druid series, which is a series I do enjoy. These are set in that universe, but they're now if you've read any of them, he has a Irish wolfhound named Oberon, and these 2 little novellas are from the dog's point of view, and they are a stitch. There is so much clever commentary on pop culture.
And if you listen to the Functional Nerds podcast, you might hear Patrick doing Oberon's voice.
Oh my God. Yes. He mentions at one point, somebody, I can't remember if it's the main character or someone else, is reading a book by Delilah Dawson.
Yeah.
So
they're friends.
Yes. And I just thought it was lovely to see all these little call outs all through both of them. So, and I brought one of them over and I gave it to Shannon and said, you have to read this. I mean, I read The Purloined Poodle was like an hour, maybe. Yes. I just sat down and read it straight through.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. I like a quick read, believe me.
Yes. What have you read anything?
No, because 1984 took me so fucking long to read that I got nothing. I will say because I'll be finishing it tonight. So unless my opinion changes severely because of the ending, which has happened. It's not unheard of. I'm reading The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, person who wrote A Handful of Ghosts.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. There's this couple and their child, and it is a gay couple, and that does come into play, so I'll mention that. And they're at this cabin. They don't have cell phone service. They've gone there to check out, and they have this little adopted girl from China, and she's like 8, and it starts out from her viewpoint. I think she's 8. And anyway, she's sitting outside, and this very hulking, large, but gentle man walks up out of nowhere up the dirt road and sits down, talks to her, and he's talking to her very friendly, and he says, I just want you to know that whatever happens next, it's not your fault, and I'll keep you safe as long as I'm alive. And so this is, the suspense in this
ominous.
is very thoroughly done.
Is this on your Kindle? Or
No, it's paperback I'm reading.
May I borrow it when you're done?
Yeah. So, but then he's like, we're going to have to go in. We're going to have to ask your dad some questions. And they're going to have to make some choices. So anyway, he keeps looking behind him, and she's wondering what he's looking for. And then you see 3 other people come walking up the road, 2 women, 1 man. And she freaks out. She's like, something's very wrong. She's a very bright little girl. You're in her head for a while. You actually bounce around between the characters a lot. He does head hopping, but he does it well.
Okay.
Just for the record, because often that's not done well. It's always clear whose head you're in.
Okay.
But it does bop around in the chapters. But I think he puts in each section the names of the people whose heads you'll be in, so that you know.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So anyway, she goes running inside, and they're just relaxing on the back porch, and she's freaking out. She can't vocalize what she's trying to say, but she's like, I need you to come inside right now. So they finally do come inside, and she locks the door, and they lock the front door, and then the people are pounding on the door, and they're like, listen, we have to talk to you. The end of the world's coming unless you let us in. We need to tell you some stuff because only you can prevent it, but you have to make some hard choices to do so. And the reason it comes into play that they are a gay couple is through parts of it, they think maybe they were targeted because of that. That's why it's important.
Okay.
And then there's some doubt cast on one of the people on whether so anyway, it's very complicated. Here I am. I've got just this teeny bit more to read. And it's at the point where you're like, is the world really ending?
Mm-hmm.
Because they keep showing proof on TV. But that proof is the types of things that we could see any given day.
Right.
Here. A plague is coming. Well, this was written pre-COVID, for the record.
Right.
But there were always plagues. There was pig flu. There was avian flu. There's always a pandemic happening. And so it's things like that. They're like, okay, if you don't make a decision today on the news, it's going to be about a plague. So is the plague really happening because they haven't made this choice they're being asked to make, which I'm not going to say what it is. Or was it happening anyway and these people are fucking crazy? So anyway, it's really, I like his writing. I like the way his brain works.
I didn't like.
I know, but I did.
Which one?
Head full of ghosts.
Head full of ghosts. The writing was good. I wasn't. For me, the story wasn't. It just wasn't satisfying.
Really, because psychologically, for me, I found it fascinating because you're still left with the question of whether she was actually experiencing things, or if it was her, or if she was delusional, or if there's something, or if they put that on her.
However, when I am reading horror, I very rarely want any question at the end.
Gotcha. And
it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a happy ending, or it doesn't have to be a dreadful ending. But I do know that about myself. I don't like in other genres. I'm okay with it. I'm like, have I ever? Now I'm like thinking about it. Is there horror I like that's ambiguous? If Deanna listened to this, she'd be going, "Oh my God, MB, it's blah blah blah." And she would name 6 things.
Yeah,
it'd be double thing.
And I like leaving horror with my brain still working. If I was in the mood to read that in the first place. So that probably does clearly delineate why I liked that book and you didn't. Because I liked that. I like the amount of doubt he casts over things. He's pretty good at it.
I think part of it too was that I found that family excruciatingly annoying.
They were, yeah.
And the story couldn't, because sometimes you get characters that aren't particularly likable. And I'm okay with that. You have to be compelled enough
by the story for that to matter.
And those people did not, for me, the story wasn't compelling enough to override how much I didn't like them.
Yeah.
But what'd you watch?
I've been watching. I'm still watching the same TV shows because I haven't watched The Great in a couple days, or like a week or so. So I have some catching up to do. So that'll be the next thing I bebop back to, right? But I've been watching a lot of Ray Donovan and Below Deck. Mediterranean. We actually got the kids now like roped into Below Deck. Like the first time I remember Savannah coming upstairs and we had been watching it for days because Jeff and I just binge watch it in the evening to just shut our brains off. And Savannah was like, "What are you guys watching? Why are you always watching this?" And he was like, "It's like some dating show or something, right?" And all of a sudden, like on any given evening, like they're not coming up every single day to do it, but one, if they come up and see it, then they'll sit down. And then Savannah, for her, it's like asking questions about their way their minds work, right? 'Cause she's like, "I don't understand why they're acting this way." And I'm like, "All right, let me talk about this." And it's funny, too, because, I mean, she's been learning sarcasm because she's autistic and all that. That was something they were teaching her in ABA to recognize. And so she does a lot of trying to key into that now.
I'm like, seriously? She lives with you? And
I know, but that's the thing, is that was one of the things that we were kind of aware of for ages. And I was like, well, maybe it's just not everybody has sarcasm. You know, like...
Yeah.
Because Gabriel was pretty serious for a while, but now he's sarcastic, too. So, yeah. So, anyways, it's funny. Because, again, it's human drama. I was talking to Jeff and I'm like, we worked at this movie theater together. First of all, the hormones were absolutely insane. Second of all, it was actually documented that they only hired attractive people there. And overwhelmingly, it was an attractive bunch at the movie theater. AMC. I'm just going to throw that out there. AMC, it was actually in their management handbooks. So I found that out when I eventually worked my way up to management. And it made sense then because I was like, how did they hire so many attractive people? By the time I was managing, we were having trouble getting employees. And now they certainly... So I definitely was not hiring based on their looks. And we're back there again, which is kind of funny. But anyway, I was like, could you imagine if we worked at that movie theater and we all had to live together as well? Because that's what it is on these below deck. They're living on the yacht for... 2 months about for each charter season and dating on the yacht and screw it, it's all compounded what we went through. And I'm like, it was crazy enough. The dramas and the romances, I'll use that loosely in quotes.
The hookups.
And yeah, I just want people to know when they go to a movie theater, people have hooked up everywhere you are in there. Just so you know. Concession counters, back room, projection booth, the bathrooms, the auditoriums. Just so everybody knows, you're not safe anywhere. Don't touch anything and wash your hands.
There are cooties. Well, you should be washing your hands anyway.
That's right.
Every time you
take
go
your hand
public.
sanitizer.
Maybe a can of Lysol.
I don't know if all theaters are that way, but that one was.
I'm guessing yes.
Yeah.
So have you or is Jeffrey watching the new Hawkeye series on Disney Plus?
No, I kept meaning to. I keep forgetting. So we just haven't checked it out because I've forgotten to go to Disney Plus.
I have watched the first 2 episodes. Kind of like it.
Okay.
I like it because it's not...
I like Jeremy Renner.
That's why.
I don't feel he's a superhero.
He's not.
People know this about me by now. I'm pretty sure. I think I've ranted about it enough.
Completely agree with you. But I like this series because it doesn't have the over-the-topness of, and there's a lot of humor in it. And it was hilarious. Watching the first episode with Thing One when she was home for Thanksgiving. And there's a scene where they come out of the theater and it's Jeremy Renner and his little son and his daughter. Well, he goes out of the theater with his daughter, and then this teenager walks out with his son. And I go to Lucy, who the hell is that? And she looks at me, she goes, I don't know. So it progresses, and all of a sudden I turn to her and I go, does Hawkeye have 2 kids or 3? And she goes, 3. Those are his 3 kids. And I said, well, then why did you tell me you didn't know who he was?
She was like, I didn't know his name or something.
And she said, I thought you were asking me who the actor was. I was like, no, I forgot that he had 3 kids. So I'm like, who is this goober who has no lines, just lurking about the background? Yeah, so she's like, okay, Mom.
All right.
Are you taking your meds every day? And then, because I was on a Marvel mood, apparently, I finally watched the Black Widow movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's on Disney Plus. I enjoyed it.
It was good. It was better than I thought it was going to be because, again, she's not a superhero.
Again, she is not. Although she does have some genetic... Does she have genetic enhancement?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
She was tortured.
But I mean, it's familial. Well, yeah, but it's Red Sparrow.
Yes.
That's what it gets to me. So she's a spy. She's a legit kick-ass person. So yeah, no, I actually really enjoyed the movie, and I like the big guy from Stranger Things.
Yes, whose name I looked up and still can't remember.
I really, really liked the actress that played her sister.
Yes!
She was my favorite.
She was very good.
Yeah.
I liked her a lot.
I would watch a spinoff with her.
And Rachel Weisz.
Mm-hmm. From The Mummy and so many other things.
I was like,
she's great.
Good Lord, that woman is aging beautifully.
I think it's funny because I keep seeing there's memes that go around and they're just like, anybody who picks one or the other, Brendan Fraser or her, and I'd like to add Oded Fair to that. They're like, why not both? To be the most attractive in the movie. And the thing is, my husband was watching, Antonio Banderas and Selma Hayek. It's Robert Rodriguez movie. Holy shit.
Not the one with Johnny Depp.
Well, that's a sequel, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, so yes. But whatever the original of that was. And anyway, I was just looking at that and I'm like, you can't. They're both beautiful.
Yes.
Some of these movies just have super beautiful people in them. Well, probably most movies, but it's just that. It's like you can't pick a favorite there.
No.
I mean, I can because I'm super straight. No matter how willing I might be to be otherwise, I'm super straight. But I can still acknowledge that Selma Hayek and Rachel Weisz are lovely.
Yes.
And I can be jealous, which is really how it works. If I see Selma Hayek, I want to be when I grow up. And that's about where my relationship with her is.
Oh, wait. There's a new Marvel movie that she's in.
Yes. Is it not? Is she in Elementals?
Yeah, that's it. I always want to call it Immortals. I'm like, Immortals, Elementals.
That is a movie, but
but not that one.
Yeah, Angelina Jolie.
Fucking everybody. It's got a lot of people in it.
God, yes. Pakistani comedian that I like.
Yes.
I'm missing his name. He's in Hell Baby.
Nope.
It's gone out of my head. But anyway, he's in it, and just all kinds of people.
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll probably wait.
I've seen it. Don't know anything about it.
Yeah. I wasn't, so even though I liked some of the people in it, it didn't really draw me in.
So I have a question for you.
And then you can start.
I was going to say, who starts this week?
You. Because I started 2 weeks in a row because I had a number 2 for a 2-parter and then a really heavy one. If you're thinking of starting a podcast or even just starting to research it, Buzzsprout is your go-to source for information and hosting. They have tons of videos and write-ups on everything you need to know about recording and distributing a podcast, and they even provide easy ways to get analytics on how your podcast is doing. We use Buzzsprout for our podcast hosting, and through them we've been able to connect with tons of resources and distributors. Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you, gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and help support our show. A win-win. Not only do they help you get started, but they also do small things to encourage you, such as awarding you badges as you hit various milestones. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the Santa Claus bank robbery.
Okay.
You may remember I had some Santa/Christmas crimes last week. This is the straight up Santa Claus bank robbery.
I geared absolutely nothing toward Christmas.
It was low hanging fruit.
And find some turkey capers.
I did not look.
Next year.
My sources were Wikipedia and the Texas State Historical Association. Really? Did I just have 2 sources? I felt like I had more. No. I also looked at, I have no idea what that is.
That's why it's not there first.
Okay. Anyway. So the ones last week were just the appetizer for this one. There's much more mayhem in this one.
Yeah.
And there is murder in this one.
Mayhem is grand.
There's murder and mayhem. So on December 23rd, what an auspicious day.
Why is that? Why is that, MD?
It's my entire birthday month this month. So on December 23rd in 1927, Cisco, Texas was the setting for what is now known as the Santa Claus bank robbery. It also led to the largest manhunt ever in the state of Texas, which it's a big state and they got a lot of criminals there. So we start with our first character is Marshall Ratliff, and Marshall is his first name. That's not a title. He's not a lawman. He's a convicted bank robber. He had lived in Cisco previously and had been tracked down and arrested by the Cisco chief of police, G.E. Bitt Bedford. So instead of serving his significant sentence, he was paroled after 1 year. So quick side note, he was pardoned by Governor Miriam Ma Ferguson, who was the first female governor of Texas and the second female governor in the U.S. Ma pardoned an average of 100 convicts a month and was accused of accepting bribes of land in cash.
Clearly.
In exchange for...
Has any governor pardoned that many people ever? Who knows? But I doubt it.
And I believe she ran again. She's big in politics. Anyway, so the first thing Ratliff did when he got out was to make plans to go back to Cisco and rob the First National Bank with his brother Lee. Unfortunately, Lee didn't get that memo and he got arrested again. So he was in the Hooskow.
The Hooskow.
So Ratliff recruited Henry Helms and Robert Hill, who were both ex-cons. They had also recruited a safecracker, which I could not find his name. He got the flu and could not go. He could not come out to play. They added Lewis Davis, who was reportedly a family man who was just in need of money and was somehow related to Helms. And he was just told, this is just a quick in and out, and you'll get a cut of the money, and you'll be good to go. So what you have to understand is at this moment in history, 1927, 3 to 4 banks per day were being robbed in Texas. The Texas Bankers Association offered a $5,000 reward to anyone shooting a bank robber during the robbery. Okay? This is going to work out.
This sounds very Texan.
It's going to work out about as well as you think it will. Mm-hmm. So Ratliff knew he would be recognized if he went back to Cisco, which was a town of about 8,000 people at that time. So he borrowed a Santa suit from his landlady at the boarding house where they were staying in Wichita Falls. So they stole a car because, who needs coffee? Just steal a car to start your day. Drove to Cisco. Ratliff got out of the car several blocks from the bank in the Santa outfit and walked down the street. So, of course, this is 2 days before Christmas. So all kinds of kids are flocking around him, and he's greeting them and ho-ho-hoing it up and answering questions. I mean, he's patting the little fuckers on the head. He is being a right jolly old elf. So nobody even bats an eye. Why would they? It's Santa. It's 2 days before Christmas. So children began following him down the street, and several followed him right into the bank. Well, right behind the kids came his partners in crime. What did I just say their names were? Helms and Hill and Davis. So they come in behind him, and apparently a teller yells, "Hello, Santa!" And Santa does not respond. Like twice. They greet him, and he doesn't respond. But then the guys with the guns pull out the guns and yell, "Hands up," or, the equivalent. So Santa Ratliff pulls a gun. He goes behind the counter and pulls a gun out of one of the teller's drawers. Mm-hmm. So now they're all armed. He forced the employees to open the vault after he took the money from the tellers, and he had a sack under his suit. So he pulls the sack out. Is filling
Was it red velvet?
I don't think so, but I kind of wish that it was.
Or velour or
in
whatever.
In my imagination, it is a...
Absolutely.
So the other men were covering the customers while he filled the sack with the loot. He gets it from the tellers and he's getting it out of the vault. So a bank patron named Mrs. Blassingame, this woman deserves a monument. So she and her 6-year-old daughter come into the bank because her daughter has seen Santa go in and is just begging her mother to take her to say hello to Santa. So she comes across the street with her daughter, comes into the bank, and realizes what's happening. So she plows, so they kind of close ranks behind her so she can't go back out. This woman fucking plows through the bookkeeping office of the bank, announces in the office they are robbing the bank. She gets to an alley door, and the whole time they are yelling, "Stop or we'll shoot." Mm-hmm. They're screaming at her that we're going to shoot. She unlocks it, shoves her daughter out, and then escapes herself. This whole time, they're still yelling at her. She just screams all the way down the block to the police station, which fortunately was only a block away. But yes, this has the effect of not just is she letting the police know, but she's letting everyone in town know. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's downtown is hearing what's going on. So Chief Bedford and his men grab up their riot guns and run for the back. So they got somebody at the front entrance, somebody at the back entrance, and somebody at the alleyway door. It sounded like the alleyway and the back entrance, they were different. So nobody's sure who fired first, because there's a lot of controversy about that. But after Ratliff came out of the vault, the front plate glass window of the bank was shot out. After that, Ratliff fired into the ceiling, because they were, and the other robbers did as well, because they wanted to alert people that they were armed. Yeah, that worked out well. So the armed bank robbers were shooting at the police, and armed citizens also began firing at the robbers. This included the postmaster and the assistant postmaster. Others who weren't armed, silly things, left their guns at home, ran to the hardware store to buy arms and ammunition to join in. Because $5,000 cash 2 days before Christmas? Who doesn't want that?
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, bank employees and hostages alike sustained injuries in the ensuing panic. One robber was shot in the arm, a bank teller was shot in the arm, and a hostage took a bullet in the leg. So Ratliff's gang tried to herd the hostages out the front door and go and move toward the car. The car was in the alley. So they get out the door and they're trying to get around the corner of the building, but most of the hostages escaped. Because you've only got 4 men, you can only cover so many people. The bank president was wounded as he escaped. But the robbers held on to 12-year-old Laverne Comer and 10-year-old Emma Mae Robertson
Those
as
are valuable
shields.
hostages.
Yep. To get them, and so that's how they got to the car in the alley. I looked. I really wanted to know what happened to those girls later. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't spend days and days and days searching, but...
Yeah, disappointing though.
Yeah, I really wanted to hear what they had to say. But, they were girls and they were young, so...
They couldn't have had anything useful to say at all.
Of course not. So, the police chief Bedford was waiting for them in the alley. And apparently, he took 5 bullets total as they made their escape. He just stood... It was like a scene out... It was described... The way it was described sounded like a scene out of a movie. He's standing at the end of the alley with his feet planted, and he's firing at the car. And the car just keeps coming. He died on Christmas Day. And Deputy George Carmichael died of his wounds in January, like January 17th. So it wasn't quite a month later. Remember Davis? He was the family man turned robber. He was seriously wounded during the escape. Later died from his wounds. And Ratliff was shot in the chin and the leg.
Yeah.
So if what happened wasn't so awful, I mean, if this did involve innocent people being killed, what happened next would be immortalized in a slapstick movie scene. Mm-hmm. So, the robbers, having stolen their car, forgot to get gas. So, as they're trying to flee the town, they realize they're almost out of gas. And the pursuing mob, because there is a pursuing mob, shoots one of their tires. So, they pull over, jump out of the car, and Ratliff is still dressed as Santa. So the Harris family is driving by in their Oldsmobile and they flag it down. 14-year-old Woodrow Wilson Harris is driving the car, and naturally he stops. He sees these men in Santa's flag, so he pulls over. The family flees the car and the robbers pile in. They put the hostages in, they put the loot in, they put the injured Davis in the back seat, except Harris, who was only 14 and had to have been shocked beyond belief, had the presence of mind when he got out of the car, he pocketed the keys. Mm-hmm. So they are in a car with no keys and they can't start it. Davis is now unconscious. So they abandon him. They leave him in the car. They hustle the 2 little girls back into their original car. Robert Hill was shot as they're moving back into the car. And they drive off. I mean, they lurch off because they're one wonky wheel. And so it wasn't until later that they realized that when they left Davis behind, they also left the loot in the other car. So they...
All for naught.
Yes, they raced, can you hear the air quotes, out of town, shooting behind them at the posse. They're throwing nails into the road. I mean, that's like, I thought only... Roadrunner and Coyote did that. Throwing the nails out into the car.
I feel like if this didn't actually inspire a heist movie, or like directly, that people have to have taken bits from this. Because it's perfect for one of the failed heist films.
It is. So they're throwing out the nails. They turned into a pasture. So they're dodging cactus and mesquite and scrub oak until the undergrowth got undergrowth.
Undergrowth.
Stop and take a breath. The undergrowth got so thick, they couldn't continue.
Is that like the opposite of a Brazilian?
The undergrowth.
The undergrowth for a dude.
Okay, so at this point, they abandoned the two little girls and fled on foot. So despite the fact there's a large number of lawmen and just angry townspeople who want to fucking shoot somebody, chasing them on foot, in cars, and on horseback, they remained at large through the night. They stole another car in the morning and wrecked the car the next day in Putnam. They carjacked a young man named Carl Wiley, forcing him to drive them away. Carl's father fired at them as they fled, struck his son. Didn't say that he was killed, so fingers crossed. So after a cold, miserable night that night with nothing to eat but oranges, which they reportedly did not share with poor Carl, they decided to return. Get this. You're not even going to believe this. They decided to return to Cisco and hide in plain sight.
We were here the whole time.
These are fucking criminal masterminds.
Oh, God, yes, they are.
The level of genius thinking here just boggles the mind. But they did let Carl go and then stole another car. There's a theme here. And then they stole another car. So the authorities, this time led by Sheriff Cy Bradford, ambushed them in South Bend, which led to a flight across an oil field, shots being fired in every direction. They're like firing over their shoulders as they run. Bradford was tough and experienced. He was also a crack shot. So with his shotgun, I swear to God, called Old Betsy, he managed to hit all three remaining fugitives as they fled on foot. Ratliff fell and was captured as the other two scampered off into the woods. Hill and Helms were captured within a couple of days, too exhausted to fight or flee. The story's not over. Just buckle up. So all three are captured and survived despite their wounds. Helms was identified as the one who killed the law officers back in the alleyway, and he received the death penalty. He got the electric chair in 1929. Hill was sentenced to 99 years in prison. He escaped from prison 3 times and was recaptured all 3 times. After he, what they called, settled down, he was paroled in the mid-1940s and lived a quiet, productive life until he passed away in 1996. I don't have their definition of productive. I'm like, did he feed the poor?
Or did he just have a job?
Right. Did he just pay his taxes and stop robbing banks and stealing cars?
That's productive.
Ratliff was also given 99 years in prison initially. Later, he was also sentenced to death for his role in the death of the police officers in Cisco, even though they didn't have proof that he shot them. So, to combat this, he began to act erratically because he was seeking a plea of insanity. And his mother actually filed for a lunacy hearing. I'm like, that's what they were really called, a lunacy hearing. So while he was in jail, he convinced the 2 jailers caring for him that he was incapacitated. They had to help him to the bathroom. They had to feed him. At some point, he got his hands on a gun, shot one man while brutally battling the other. The thing was, people could see into the jail. Mm-hmm. They could see what was happening, but because of the locked door, they couldn't get in. The jailer's daughter was outside. The one who, they actually watched him beat Ratliff down.
Okay.
And haul his unconscious ass back into the cell and lock him up.
Good.
So, this was in Eastland County. And these people had decided they'd had enough. So, a crowd estimated around 2,000 gathered that night and into the next day. They overpowered the sheriff and made off with Ratliff.
Oh.
They dragged him behind a theater and hanged him, although it took 2 tries. The first time the knot broke, and they said, fuck this, they got a new rope and hanged him.
All right. A real-life Texas lynch mob.
Yep. And not one person was convicted of the lynching. Not only that, let's have a little creep factor. Ratliff's body was put on display in a furniture store window for at least a day.
Yeah.
an estimated several thousand people viewed it before the sheriff reclaimed it and moved it. And eventually he was buried.
Not uncommon.
I'm like, this just, you can't make this shit up. If I wrote this, if I novelized this,
they'd be like,
people
nah.
would tell me this isn't feasible.
I love a good heist.
They would say he wouldn't go back there, but he did. They wouldn't, no, you can't have him take young girls. That's makes him unsympathetic. Hello, he was a convicted bank robber. He was unsympathetic.
Oh, Lord.
It's just
so much.
and this is why.
We ran out of gas, and then we got in this car. We didn't have the keys. Then
it just when you think it's done, it keeps going. I really wanted to put this at the end of my little Christmas crimes last week, but it was too big.
Yeah.
There was so much. It's a big
You would have to skip important things.
And there were just so many delightful little details. They borrowed. I love the fact that they treated their landlady at the boarding house with enough respect. Excuse me, could we borrow your Santa suit? They'll steal a fucking car at the drop of a hat. But a Santa suit, you have to ask nicely.
Well, I mean, I think that they fully intended they'd be going back to stay there.
Probably. Although, if they got the money, I would think they'd be living high on the hog. There's a hand gesture you can't see.
Maybe high on the hog. Maybe they just really like that living.
Perhaps.
All right.
So what are you going to talk about?
So I'm doing something lighter than usual. It's Who Put Bella in the Witch Elm? Sources, horror galore, historic mystery. Do you know this one?
I do know this one. I looked at that one.
Yay! And on alien.com, Brian Houghton's blog, excerpt from the novel Unsolved Murders by Amber Hunt and Emily G. Thompson on Crime Reads, and Mysterious Britain. All right, here we go. An enduring unsolved mystery in Stourbridge, England, has been the question of who put Bella in the witch elm. April 18th, 1943. 4 boys, Robert Hart, Thomas Willits, Bob Farmer, and Fred Payne, found a skull in Hagley Wood on the Hagley Hall estate, and what was identified as a witch elm but has since been proven to be a witch hazel. Bob Farmer was climbing the tree to look for bird nests when he glimpsed a skull in the tree. It was like in a depression in it, and like a hole. The tree was kind of hollowed out. He grabbed it out to look at it, and that's when he realized it was actually human. He thought it was, he thought he was going to pull out an animal skull. It had some long brown hair still attached to it, like tufts and some tufts of skin.
Ew.
And there were clearly human teeth. He stuck it back in the tree, told others, and they took off. Now it said boys and everything, and then I finally found out that the youngest one was 17, so they were, in the 40s, they were pretty much adults. Come on.
Yeah.
So they made an agreement not to tell anyone else because they'd actually been out poaching on private property in an attempt to subsidize their meager meat rations during World War II.
Got it.
Thomas Willits, he was the youngest, he was the one that was 14, couldn't get it out of his head, and he told his parents about it that night. And they, of course, called the police, and the next day he led them to the tree where they found more than a skull. There was an entire skeleton, except for one part, of a 35-year-old woman. There was some clothing, including shoes and a wedding ring. Her hand was not in the tree, but they did find it buried beneath. And they found, some of the reports said that some of the remains, like the ring, was found just underneath and not like in the tree. So it varied. So who knows? She had been in the hole long enough that the tree had started kind of growing around her.
Ooh.
Professor James Webster did the autopsy. He discovered taffeta in the mouth, like stuffed into her mouth. That, along with the rest of the evidence, caused him to determine that the woman had been murdered, probably via asphyxiation by the taffeta fabric, and that she'd been in the tree since about October 1941, which is about 18 months. She had given birth at least once in her life, was about 5 feet tall. It could not be determined whether she had been a victim of sexual assault. Clearly, all of that would have been gone.
Right.
It was felt she was placed in the tree right after her death because she would not have fit if she were in rigor mortis, and it was also pointed out then that she had to have been killed there too. Outside the tree, clearly. But for the killer to have that time to get her, because I'll post pictures of the tree, you're not, unless you know exactly what this kind of tree looks like, you're not picturing it right. Because to me, I'm I'm just saying, you're picturing probably, like an oak tree, like a normal trunk. No, this is a thing that has a billion little, like, super thin branches, and, like, so you could tuck somebody into it. It's a lot different than a hollow in a tree brings as a, just a visual. Mm-hmm. And so I'll definitely post that, but I can tell you're still not picturing it right. All right. So, where was I?
Oh, she had to have been killed there.
Yes, the location of the tree in which she was found indicated the killer was likely local. Her dental records didn't identify her either, and when the dental information was put into dental journals around the country, because her teeth were somewhat unusual, they were a mess, they were prominent, they stuck out, they were crooked. No one came forward. No dentist recognized it. So, and she had also had a tooth that had been removed within a year of her death. They could tell that it had been pulled out by the roots, right? Still nothing. And the reason, by the way, that they thought that it was a local probably found it was in this patch somebody wouldn't have just been strolling by. Mm-hmm. Again, private property. But the professor was like, this was a really clever place to put a body. Had these boys not been climbing this tree, she wouldn't have been found. It would have grown over. So he felt like somebody knew that area. A witness did come forward stating he'd heard a woman screaming one night in July 1941, which would have been 20 months before the body was found, which adds up. He and a teacher had both heard the screams and called the police. Police came out and searched the woods, but found nothing, which makes sense because by the time the police got there, she was probably already in the tree and the person was gone. Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't have looked. The boy had to climb up.
Right.
Some. So her shoes, size 5.5 and crepe soled, had been produced by the Waterfoot Company in Lancashire. All owners were tracked down save for 6 people who had bought them from a stall in Dudley, 11 miles from Hagley Hall. So they didn't know who those 6 people were, couldn't use that to get any further. In December 1943, someone wrote on a stone obelisk at Hagley Hall, "Who put Lubella down the witch elm?" It continued throughout the area, always written in chalk, but they changed to say simply, "Who put Bella in the witch elm?" But that first one was Lubella. Police did investigate missing persons with the name Lubella, Bella, and Belladonna, but it didn't lead anywhere. And they were like, they could be using Bella as in beautiful. There's so many things, but they felt somebody knows something because they're putting this everywhere. The graffiti artist ended up writing at least 50 messages before it stopped. They were never identified, but the handwriting was felt to be from the same person. And I'm like, can you really identify handwriting on graffiti? I don't know. Apparently you can.
From chalk on a rock.
Yeah, I don't know. There were no local missing persons who fit the description of the woman, and to this day she has not been identified. Again, a reminder, World War II was happening, and women were disappearing at high rates during that time anyway. There was just no way. As always, there are plenty of theories from the simple to the complicated, from the mundane to the dark and magical. Let's talk about a few, shall we?
Well, yes,
let's do it. Okay.
Please tell me more.
So, as World War II was raging, there were theories revolving around that. For example, there were those who thought she might be a German immigrant who was part of a spy ring, because there were munitions factories around there. And the Blitz was happening. So they were being bombed. And that area was getting hit. And they thought that she'd been caught and murdered for being a spy, or she'd crossed her contacts or whatever, and they'd killed her. In fact, a letter was sent to the Wolverhampton Wolverhampton Express. That's a terrible word. Wolverhampton Express and Star newspaper. In 1953, by the way, so like a decade later, by someone who signed it Anna of Claverley. I feel like that should be like a Anna Green Gables book. Who stated Bella was a spy for the Luftwaffe. She said Bella was spying on munitions factories in the area and reporting back. The letter claimed the victim was actually Dutch, not German. The letter gave the name of a British officer who was helping the spy ring, but he had been dead since 1942. Why? Oh, it was her husband. So police did look into this, and they actually met with Anna. I didn't put her real name in here. I don't know why. She had a real name. They learned the British officer was her husband and had witnessed Bella's death. He was institutionalized after having repeated visions of the woman's face in the tree, was Anna, her claim, and died in the asylum. He did die in the asylum, that's confirmed. Whether it was about visions of a woman's face in the tree was not reported, so I guess they didn't have the records. But I should also note that this case is still sealed by police. They won't let anybody look at their notes.
Really?
Correct. They were able to verify some of her information, but question why it had taken so long to say anything. They're like, so, a decade later, you come and tell us this shit?
Yeah, he's been dead for how long?
Almost all of the years.
Yeah.
He was dead before they found the body, I think.
Oh.
An author named Donald McCormick wrote a book within which he claimed he had spoken to an ex-Nazi who had been in the area during the relevant time period. The ex-Nazi said there was a German spy with a Dutch girlfriend named Clarabella Dronkers. They were able to find that a man named Johann Marinus Dronkers had been executed by the British as a spy in 1942, but there was no such information available on a woman named Clarabella Dronkers, Clarabella, which led to a dead end. On the flip side of that, it was considered that she was perhaps a local who happened across some sort of covert operation and was killed for discovering it. Further, it was suggested that she was a German actress who had become a spy and parachuted into the area, never being seen again. They felt she'd landed in the tree and died, which... Again, look at the picture when I posted and tell me how that worked. The actress Clara Bowerly was 5'10", though, not 5 feet. There was a very distinctive difference, and had died in Berlin in a hospital in December 1942. There's also the Hand of Glory theory. Here's where we get into
the woo-woo.
The woo-woos. Inspired by one of her hands being found buried nearby instead of with her, but not. So it's thought that she was a human sacrifice in a black magic ritual that would allow the owners of the hand to use its magical powers. This theory was put forth by a professor at the University of London, Margaret Murray. Though she was an anthropologist, archaeologist, and an Egyptologist, she had an interest in the macabre. I mean, I say though, but I was interested in all those things too, and was going to grow up and be Indiana Jones, and I was also interested in the macabre. In addition to suggesting the Hand of Glory, she pointed out there was a history of putting witches in hollows of trees to keep them from harming others, kind of like the binding that you see in stuff like the craft, but they would put them inside a tree. And so then she put that out there, and then people started saying, oh, she crossed her coven and they've done this, or, whatever. So those were the new theories. And for those who don't know briefly, a hand of glory is typically the hand of a man who has been hanged or otherwise executed, but usually hanged. It's dried and coated with fat from the individual from which the hand came and made into a candle. It gives light and power, such as opening any door, protecting the owner, so on and so forth. There's a billion things that they say it's supposed to do, and it's considered very powerful. However, to me, it would be pretty pointless to bury the hand right there had they wanted a hand of glory.
And
you don't just bury it and not use it.
No, it would also be powerfully unpleasant to smell.
Yes, it would. Maybe the wax is supposed to... Well, they said dried, and even some said pickled. And I was like, did they really pickle it? Because I don't know if I've heard that before.
Well, I bet if they put it in something... Yes, like formaldehyde.
Yeah. So they would do something to treat it.
Yeah.
And then use the fat that they had processed from their body. On this topic, it's more believable that an animal had dragged the hand away.
Probably.
In fact, it's pretty impressive that so much else was intact after having been there for 18 months. If you ask me, I mean, birds, squirrels, whatever. Other theories involved her being a gypsy who'd been murdered. The clothing didn't support this theory, by the way. A woman killed by her GI boyfriend when he got her pregnant. She would have had to be very early pregnancy. That's my response to that one, for there not to be remains.
Yep.
A prostitute murdered by someone, or that she'd hidden in the woods during a blitz and run into a surprise killer who was doing the same. That was like, what a coincidence! That would suck if you flee, because people would commonly run to the woods.
Well, yeah.
During these. Not that, I guess, a bomb couldn't drop in there, but whatever. When there's bombs dropping, you do what you do.
Well, generally the bombs are aimed at buildings. Or they were then.
I've got a theory.
Uh-oh.
Because of the presence of the wedding band. Which, by the way, the professor was like, this wedding band has been worn for 4 years. And I'm like, how the fuck do you know how long she wore the wedding band? But anyway, it was a cheap gold band. I feel it's a strong possibility she was murdered by a spouse. Or a fiance, for example, or whatever, and placed in the tree. And that's why she was also not reported missing. Because her spouse would have been the one to do it if she didn't have a family around. If there were a husband somewhere missing her, he would have called the police, which makes it a little bit sadder than it might otherwise be to me if it was something so simple as her husband killed her and put her in this tree and didn't report her missing. And what how many times in the past I did a story, Belle Elmore, where it was like, yeah, she went to America.
Yep.
Problem solved. Nobody can investigate that. It's done.
Belle.
Bella. It could be her. I should look up the years. But this was earlier. Because she moved to America by a really slow boat.
Yes.
But anyway, the most popular ones involved her being some sort of spy.
Because that's...
Or tangling with that.
Yes.
And again, with the letter that was sent in and all of that, and there were names, by the way, it was so convoluted with the various theories that I was like, if I start throwing out names, nobody's going to keep track of it anyway. So I didn't. But there were names of the people that were accused. There were real people that were included in these accusations and stuff like that. So it probably does make the most sense. For the man who died in the asylum or whatever, they listed... She said the name of the pub that they met at, which is an actual pub there. She said the name of other people involved. She actually had names, or, this person was a German, this person was a British counter, stuff like that. She went into a lot of detail, and they did confirm some of it. So that actually is probably quite a likely thing. But, they'll never know. Interestingly, in 1999, someone once more graffitied "Who Put Bella in the Witch Elm" on the Witchbury Obelisk, which was a 200-year-old structure, and I believe it was on that estate. It was felt the handwriting matched the original iterations, and so it was like, why did this get brought up again? They did mention that there's been little bits here and there since then, and that people kind of just adopted it as this thing to write places. Her remains disappeared after Webster's death. The professor, he actually left it to somebody in his will, so he had possession of her remains. And so there have been claims of a government cover-up or something like that, a police cover-up, and that is kind of validated for them because the police still won't share their files and have kept them closed.
That is bizarre.
Especially because it has become folklore in the area. I mean, Bella is something that people talk about and pass down. But the police just say it's because it's still an active case, and so they can't open the files. And I don't know how likely that is there or how that works there.
Nah, no idea.
So the question still remains, who put Bella in the witch elm? And who did the graffiti, and why were they calling her Bella?
And can you really tell someone's handwriting from graffiti? Chalk on a rock?
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean...
I feel like, I don't know, although mine would probably still be pretty sloppy if I tried to graffiti something, so maybe it would be consistent in some way.
Perhaps there was some...
look how they graffitied that A.
That A slants back instead of forward.
It's matchy. It doesn't meet at the top.
It slants to the left. And the crossbar has a uptick at the end.
I remember when I was into everything spontaneous combustion and reading all the stuff that came out in Life, and all these magazines would do stories about all the macabre stuff.
Yes.
Oh, and then of course there was Fate magazine, and I remember they would do things about you can basically use somebody's writing as almost tarot, right? You can tell something from there. If this O doesn't meet the other side and there's a gap left when it loops around, and how their L is, and whether this T goes below the line, stuff like that. I remember writing to analyze my handwriting and stuff like that as a goofy little preteen doing this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So
I was at a party once where there was somebody who did, she would look at your handwriting and tell you about yourself. And I'm like, I know myself. I'm in my head. You can't tell me anything about me I don't know.
That's right. I already know these things. Thank you. I will read your tea leaves for you now.
I was like, if you want to tell me about the future, I won't believe you, but you can tell me.
I actually learned at one point, my mom had tarot cards, and they weren't mine to touch. But I did learn how to do it with playing cards. There was a whole breakdown of the meanings of the playing cards and stuff like that, too. I did all this stuff, but...
Oh, yeah. I had the little tarot paperback and underlined.
I think it's so funny that little girls get into this so much more than little boys. But then what I've read, I think I read something, and the theory was it was a power thing. That they lacked power elsewhere, where boys were being told you can be anything you want to be, and they were being brought up in these positions of power, and girls weren't. Girls were being brought up to be subservient, at varying levels. But with witchcraft and stuff like that, they had control over something. Mm-hmm. So that was an interesting theory.
It makes sense to me.
I won't go deeper into it. I go too weirdly deep on all kinds of things too often. Everybody's like, shut up and tell us a story.
Have we talked about spontaneous combustion at all?
We have not.
So I'm going to drop a teaser for the next season because we're going to have a guest.
Yeah.
We have a special themed episode to start the new season.
Are you going to say the title of it?
What's eating you? That's all.
You're welcome. Yes, we'll have all sorts of things coming up, and we're not going to leave you completely without something for the 2 weeks that we're on vacation. Actually, I need to pull that up and see what date that means we'll be coming back. So we will be back on the 12th with new episodes. But in the meantime, we're going to be picking some favorites and putting those ones back out there. So each episode will have some, 2 of our favorites that we pick. So you have something to listen to while you're doing something, and you can remember the good times. I mean, probably for the first season would be best, but we'll see.
Probably.
Because we already have some in mind. So anyway,
yes,
we have our question. I made it up while you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So we're going to ask, do you do New Year's resolutions, and what are they this year? Or do you do goal setting? And we probably ask the same thing next year, and we'll probably ask the same thing next year. So whatever, because it's always interesting to see what people are planning on changing or doing or what their goals are.
Mine is the same every year. To think before I speak. Thank you for laughing.
I think I laugh every time.
The thing is, I am getting better at it.
Yeah.
The people who think I don't have a filter and who think I don't stop myself from saying things, you are very wrong.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how much I do actually enact a filter. It's a struggle here. My goal is just to get the fuck off Cymbalta and never touch it again, because I'm still dealing with that. And I'm back in serious withdrawals again, and I'm not enjoying it. But I'm getting closer. So honestly, that's going to be my focus, along with some author things next year, some book releases I have coming up. So yeah.
I can't wait to talk about those.
Yay! I'm excited. I'm working hard.
And we'll both be at Pikes Peak Writers Conference next year.
Yeah, and I'll be at Cosign and at StokerCon, and I'm doing a Right Brain that's paid, apparently. So it's not free to you, but it will be broadcast online, and it's $20, and it's that horror panel I was scheduled to do before that we had to reschedule, do some issues.
Yes.
So there's all kinds of stuff coming up. That's always on my website, so people can check that out. I even had a couple books, like stories come out in books, and I never said anything about it on here. So like, what's the point in having a platform? But they're on my webpage, theworrymuse.com. And if you guys need to find us, we are at mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com. Our email is mysteriesmonstersmayhem@gmail.com. We post images on Instagram from these stories, and we post our question and also a Monday question that we would love for people to be participating in, which is about what you're reading, what you're watching, what you're listening to, so that people can share and
give us our next binge fest.
That's right. I liked the idea that you post something, and if somebody else has read that or watch the movie or whatever, that they would click like. So I like to see that get some attention, y'all. Post it every Monday morning. Anyway, thank you so much either way for listening. Thank you for listening to us and helping us. You've made it so that we've done 2 seasons so far.
And we're planning to come back with season 3.
That's right. We'll have various guests again. I took a break from that because it's a little bit of extra work for me. And
it is.
But we will have some more, and we'll have some interesting ones.
Maybe we can do field trips again.
That's right. Because, we kind of got kiboshed with the COVID.
Yeah.
As everybody did. So, all right, you guys. Thank you again for listening to us. And for, liking, rating, reviewing, sharing,
recommending,
subscribing, recommending.
Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your boss, tell your children.
Tell your neighbor, tell a stranger on the street.
That would be good.
All right, you guys. Bye.
Bye.